Hello everyone and welcome to WGBS TV Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. My name is Steve Eunice, and on this show we're about to bring you all the latest topics that happened this week, and I've just changed the crayon at the bottom from Neil Bailey to Michael Bailey, so I'm just doing that really quickly. But in this, our October 8th, 2019 show, we're going to bring you a range of topics, including all the stuff happening with the Crisis on Infinite Earth, some of the behind-the-scenes photos. We're going to be talking about Titans, with some major Superman characters set to appear or appearing on that on the latest episode. We're also going to be turning to you to take your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss. And to let you know how all that works and how you can get involved in tonight's show, let me introduce you to my co-host. He's back this week. I was back last week, Mr. Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve. Now, since WGBS Live is all about Superman, we want to hear from the fans that are watching us live on YouTube. So around the halfway mark, and if we don't have too much on the docket, which, frankly, this week we have a lot on the docket, we will start trying to take your calls. To do this, you're going to need Skype. Get onto Skype, find Superman homepage, and message us that you'd like to be part of the show. Now, there's two important things. One, message us. Don't just call, because that can screw things up. And two, and kind of more importantly, if you are not listening to us on headphones and you got like a speaker going, please turn that down, because we are on a delay and that gets kind of screws things up. But other than that, we'd like to hear from you.
Yes, so getting involved in tonight's program. Yes, I did change it from Neil Bailey to Michael Bailey. People commenting that doesn't look like Neil. No, he's better looking. And I think Neil will agree with me on that one.
You know, I've been dropping some weight recently, so there might be some truth to that.
Yeah, looking good, mate. Well done. I was seeing your progress on Facebook and that. You're doing well.
Yeah, I'm really pushing it hard. It's not only just going to the gym; it's a diet thing. So I'm not like on a diet. I've just changed my diet, if that makes any sense. Yeah. I did think for a few minutes today if there was any way I could fake like the eye thing that they do on Supergirl, so that I could come on and like I'm not paying attention to you, but there was no way I could pull that off in the amount of time that I had. I thought about looking at my phone the entire time you were doing the introduction, but I've done that bit before too. So
it'd just be par for the course.
I have no comedic way to bring this in.
Sadly, no. We could have done some photoshopping with your eyes or got you some contacts, but we just ran out of their time. Just didn't happen. But we'll get onto that in a second. We'd like to start with movie news, and tickets are available for this thing called Superman in Concert. It's with the Royal Philharmonic Concert Orchestra. What you do is you get to watch Superman the movie on the big screen, but with a live orchestra playing the soundtrack there and then as you're watching it, below the stage. I think this is a phenomenal idea. I've done this with some of the Looney Tunes cartoons, and this would be awesome.
Yeah, we in Atlanta, they did Nightmare Before Christmas with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra playing, and the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra has gotten the series that's been coming around where they've done like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Empire Strikes Back. So I've been waiting for Superman, and apparently I'm going to be waiting longer because this is not in the United States.
Yes, no, it's firstly the world premiere is in Switzerland, Lucerne, Switzerland. I was only there just like 3-4 weeks ago. Damn it, they do all these things. But this is May next year. So May next year, 16th and 17th is the world premiere. Then at the Royal Albert Hall in London. I just drove past that too a couple of weeks back. Jeez, timing just all out. But that's on Tuesday, October 27th. So if you're in either of those areas and you're interested, tickets are available. Head to our website to find the links for those Royal Albert Hall's Films in Concert Series 2020. This is taking place. I imagine further dates will be announced for other locations, possibly in the near future.
Yeah, I'm hoping this comes to the States because I just it's completely selfish. I want to see it. I would love to be there as the orchestra is literally playing the music while I'm sitting there. And it's just it's so funny because there was like rumors of this, and it's just like finally it's going to happen. I'm like, yay! In another country,
Uh-huh.
yay! I mean, I'm cool. It's cool that the people in those countries are going to get to experience it, but just like once again, it's just like it's so close and yet so far.
I know. It's one of those things, you hear it announced, you think fantastic, but it just never comes to your area, which can be frustrating. But yeah, so if you're interested, get to watch the film in high definition on the big screen, whilst John Williams' triumphant original score is performed by the Royal Philharmonic Concert Orchestra live to picture. I imagine that would be kind of a bit nerve-wracking as the conductor, making sure you're getting all the beats right and everything's happening on time, and it would be pretty chaotic, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm wondering how long the rehearsal process for it is. I mean, I know these guys, these musicians and the conductors, they're professionals. This is what they do for a living. So spot reading music and stuff like that. But you are playing along with a movie. So there are points where there is no music.
Mm-hmm.
But I just assume that, as professionals, they just they know the place in the concert that they're supposed to do what they need to do. So but yeah, the conductor is probably a little nervous at first. I
imagine they have cues, like they've got a screen and there's like indications, some kind of not a bouncing red ball, but something along those lines.
When we saw Nightmare, it was really cool because the screen was behind the orchestra. So the music was really like kind of in your face because the music was hitting you. But the interesting thing is I guess they have to have a sound mix that doesn't have the music with it, but has all the dialogue.
Yep.
So that's kind of fascinating as well. But as the more I learn about, like, especially movies around the time Superman the movie was made, there's like 50 billion sound mixes. There's like a mono mix and a stereo mix and a 5.1 mix. So it's just like, I'm sure they have these things kind of lying around.
Yeah, indeed. All right, well, other than that, the other movie news was an interview with Harry Lennox, who, as you know, played General Swanwick in both Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And he talked about Gene Hackman. He talked about working with Henry Cavill in these films that I just mentioned, and the screen test that he was brought on. Supposedly Zack Snyder was a big fan of Lennox and loved his voice and wanted him in some capacity and got him for this for the role of General Swanwick. And he says that he saw Henry Cavill in the suit. He saw him before that, just shaven in his having shaven his face in his what do you call it? He says he was just in one of his honey wagons. He called it little honey wagons with his shirt off, shaving his face. And then he said, then I had him he saw him in the costume. It was the original suit from Christopher Reeve's film. And he goes, damn, that's Superman. They don't have to look any further ever. So he was a big fan of Henry's right from the very first minute he saw him.
Yeah, I like hearing these stories, basically, because I liked him. I liked his character. He was part of the whole, we're going to fear Superman until we don't. And I liked their dynamic together, especially through the glass. Apparently, maybe he was meant to be something else, but
yeah,
that was a weird thing to drop on the same weekend that this stuff was dropping, because he didn't mention that at all in the interview, did he?
No, he didn't. This was what you're talking about is the fact that Zack Snyder via social media dropped the news that originally in the Justice League film, theatrical cut of Justice League, that General Swanwick was revealed to be Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, so I saw that, and at first I was like, wow, we're still doing this? Because of course we are. I swear to God, if like some big news story is going to break, and in the middle of it, somebody's just going to stand up and yell, "Release the Snyder Cut!" But the problematic aspect of it is, if he was Martian Manhunter the entire time, why did he just sit there? There was an alien invasion going on, and oh yeah, a big monster wrecking all of Metropolis that he was just kind of watching. So it's an interesting idea. I would have liked to have seen Harry. I almost called him Henry. It's the H names that were throwing me off. I would have liked to have seen him in the role because I think he would have done a good job with it. I mean, we've been getting a lot of great Martian Manhunters over the last couple of decades. But it's problematic is what it is. And it's just like one of those things like, where was that going to fit in?
Yeah.
I mean, was he going to show up in the big fight? Was the Martian Manhunter going to be part of this? And it just I think it raises more questions than it really needs to.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of doesn't really fit in with the continuity that was in place, especially considering they didn't trust aliens in the first place, and here he was, one of them. So, yeah, a little bit strange for that revelation. It might have been an interesting idea to play with, but I don't know if it would have necessarily fit with the stories that had been told to that point in time. So if you want to check out that interview, the AV Club is the website that conducted the Harry Lennox interview, and it's quite interesting, so check that out. Alright, well, let's shift gears and move to the television, and people are already in the comments on YouTube asking about the latest Supergirl episode, the first episode of the new season, Season 5. You did the review for the website. The episode was titled Event Horizon. You gave it a middle ground 3 of 5, saying that it was a very uneven season premiere.
Yeah, I felt like the pacing was all off with it. Like they had like 15 different tones going on. And it's one of those things where, like, I liked all of the Lena Kara stuff. I actually thought once it played out the way it did, where, you know, she's doing all the simulations and then she's going to reveal her identity, but Kara tells her, so she in mid-year switches plans and it's going to play in a different way. And I felt like Lena is acting like a Luthor. She feels like this is how she's going to save the world, and she can only do it on her own. She's got a nice little like computer sidekick now, which, you know, given how everything worked out with Eve, I don't blame her. But it's just like everything else about it was just kind of, except the things between Nia and Brainy, were just like, okay, we have a new owner of Catco, and apparently she can change people's contracts so that if they leave, there's a non-compete clause, and I don't think that's how that works. And I realize it's all to set up Jimmy leaving, or James leaving, but it felt more like the season 3 premiere and not the season 2 or 4 premiere, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was very disjointed in that there were so many things that they were trying to juggle at once, so many plot lines that they were trying to throw in and get in there. We had the whole midnight thing with this character who was obviously connected to John. You had John's brother coming in at the end, revelation there, you know, who he doesn't remember or he's blocked out. You've got everything happening with Kara and Lena, which I thought was a pretty strong part of the thing. I thought Melissa's delivery of her apology for not telling her was very heartfelt and really well acted. And I thought Lena would be just, yes, into it. But obviously they don't want to go that way with Lena. They want to take her in a different track. So Lena had this whole dual emotional thing happening where she seemed to accept Kara's apology, but then at the same time is behind the scenes planning against her, although she did have a change of heart about sending that article to the new owner of Catco, which was supposed to happen at 9 p.m. and a big revelation that was going to launch Catco into a new direction or whatever. Catco's the whole new concept is like a cosmic book news or a we got this covered type of idea. Is that where they're going with it? These clickbait ideas?
Yeah, it's the whole first scene where they're sitting in the cafe, the coffee house, talking about how like everyone's looking at their phones and no one's paying attention to what's really going on. And I'm like, guys, you have at the top and bottom of every show live tweet with us on Twitter while you're watching it. It's just like, it's not that I disagree with the overall idea. I mean, that is something that needs to be talked about. We do need to pay attention to what's going on in the world, especially if there's an election coming up. We need to know who the candidates are, and that is whether you're on one political side or the other. It's good to be informed. But it just seems like their social cause for this season, I joked about this before, but I'm going to bring it up again. It feels like an old man yelling that, like all these kids are on his lawn and they need to get off. It's just, you can't sit there and tell me I'm too much into my phone at the same time of telling me that I need to. Like, you go on Twitter when Supergirl is on live, and right at the top of Twitter, you can just tap the Supergirl picture, and you are automatically all set up to tweet with the hashtags that you need to tweet with. And it's just like, this is a little disingenuous. I mean, like, what about the people watching this on, like, the CWC, the website afterwards? Like, they are totally on their computer watching this.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said with talking about clickbait culture. Like, I'm totally down with that. But the whole people are too into their phones was really heavy-handed at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of seemed like, especially Kara's delivery about, the whole political thing was just like, they were trying to wedge it in there. It just kind of seemed a little bit disingenuous, as you said. But there was a lot packed into this. People in the comments are talking about Brainy and his dialogue being quite annoying. And his character is quirky and can, probably get on a few people's nerves. The relationship part of Supergirl is, pandering to the shipping audience out there, where you've got Alex and James's sister, you've got Brainy and what's her name, and so it's just like, it's part of the show, and if it's not your cup of tea, then you can kind of look to the superhero elements of it, I guess.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the superhero elements this time around, I didn't, like they said, this person's gonna play Midnight, she's gonna be the big villain, and in the ads, it's like she's this big deal, and she felt like a freak of the week from first year Smallville, and that's a little disappointing. But I get that this is all part of the thing with John. I also think what I didn't realize until I was doing the review and looking on IMDb that the gentleman that was the voice of Green Lantern on Justice League, in addition to 1,000 other voices, Phil Lamar, is doing the voice of his brother. I don't know if he's playing him, but I know he's doing the voice, and that's just like, with all this news of all these people, like from past DC projects getting thrown into the crisis, it's like we've found a way to get Phil Lamar in too, and I just appreciate that. The one thing about Lena, though, and this was the thing, she felt like season 3, season 4 Lex on Smallville, and in a good way. Like she has been like the nice, nurturing, good girl, good rich person friend trying to get out from under her name, and now she's sliding into it, but she doesn't see it. And if this plays out right, it's going to be really interesting, I think.
Could be a great arc for Lena. The costume. There's an article that was posted online about the creation of this new costume and how much was involved. That it took an extra amount of time because they went through different iterations of the costume, tried to get red highlights into the costume, but it ended up looking more like a twirlers, from a marching band type of thing. So the way that it was brought in the episode, Brainy, her cape, for some reason in this particular fight, got destroyed more than it has ever before, and that threw her off in her flight patterns. But supposedly Brainy went over an extra mile to create a different costume, and obviously the pants are a big part of it, but the whole overall look, it has changed, as we know it would. The interesting thing is, in this episode, Brainy says, like, he puts a little invisible thing that is going to make the costume come about onto the side of her glasses, and says, the next time you whip off your glasses, you'll be in the Supergirl costume. And then the next thing you know, she takes them off to talk to Lena, and it doesn't happen. It's only until she does it with a bit of force later on. It's like, what?
Yeah, my wife and I were talking about that, and that was her theory too, is that there has to be a certain amount of like twirl to it or something. Like there's a certain amount of torque that has to happen for it to activate. I thought putting it on the glasses was kind of a silly thing. I really did. I thought that's like, there's so many other ways you could do it, especially since like it's here, but it starts on her arm.
Hmm.
So when you saw it in the ads, I was just like, okay, so did he put like a patch on her arm, like that could sit under her sleeve, and she hits a button and the costume comes out? Because they kind of did that in the New 52 with Superman. You know, he had the costume that kind of came out, and why? It just seemed like a really weird way to get to where they were. Because, like you said, he's like, the next time you take your glasses off, you will get a new costume. And she immediately takes her glasses off, and I'm like,
Where's the costume?
okay, where's the costume? I feel, I think it was probably an idea that, okay, so I watched Batwoman before I watched Supergirl,
Okay,
because that's the airing of the shows now. And both of them were good, but both of them had this really rushed feeling.
Mm.
And I'm kind of wondering if the whole thing with Crisis is going to make the first part of this season like super uneven, because they've got so many balls in the air right now.
Yep.
And they've got so many things going on behind the scenes. And I'm not saying this is a criticism to them, because even though I didn't really care for this as much as other episodes, I'm not bailing on the show, and I still liked what I saw. But I'm wondering if there's just so much going on behind the scenes that little things like that are getting overlooked, and end up, like if they had more time, they would have looked at the script and went, "Oh, maybe we need to do this differently."
Yeah, the timing is off with what we're doing. It looked like in the trailer or the promos that she actually touched her chest on one, and that created the costume. Maybe that comes later on. Maybe she says, look, sometimes I'm at home without my glasses on. I need to go to Supergirl. I'm not going to go put them on and then take them off to get my costume back on. So, yeah, it would make more sense if she, hit a chest or something, and I don't know. It's an idea that has been in the Superman comics as well. I think it was New 52, the costume, emerged.
Yeah, I think that was Dan Jurgens' idea when he was on the book for the 5 minutes that he was on when they were going through that rotating cast of creators. But I like the new costume a lot. I think they should have redesigned the boots, because the boots more suited when she had a skirt, because then they would protect her knees when she was fighting and stuff. She doesn't need that as much anymore. But I thought that there was all those comments when it was first revealed that it looks like Captain Marvel's outfit. I don't really see that at all. I think this is the weirdest problem I have. Both Kara and Supergirl now have bangs. Like, before, Kara's hair was swept completely back, and when she was Supergirl it was down, so there's that illusion of it. But now they both have pretty nice hairstyle, but it's just like they look a lot alike. So it's really going to depend on if the Catco thing actually ends up being something that isn't. The problem I had with the new owner of Catco is that she was a really super two-dimensional character. Like, there wasn't really much to her. Oh, I'm just here. Like, her and the mail reporter, and they're throwing all of these characters at us, and it's like, guys, you don't have time for the characters you have.
Stop bringing new ones in.
Yeah, stop bringing new ones in, because every time you do that, another character loses their story. So
she was so two-dimensional, I could not get away from the scar in between her eyes. I just kept focusing on that little blemish. That was just like...
Yeah, and she had this crazed look on her face most of the time that she was talking. But again, it's like, this is the direction we're going in. Okay, you're a multimedia company. You're going in a new direction. I don't think you could change your employees' contracts. I don't think that's how that works. And doing the whole thing where she's in there basically measuring James's office before he's told he's fired, they're going out of our way of, you are not supposed to like this character, and you're not supposed to like this writer just supposedly because he panders to whatever paper he's writing for.
So that was the first episode of Season 5. A bit of a rocky start. Not a bad start, as you said. There are elements to it that we both liked, but it just seemed like they were trying to juggle too many balls at one time, and so it will be interesting to see which threads they take up and how they continue. And talking about continuing, episode 2 is titled Stranger Beside Me, and we have the promo for that right now. So let's check out episode 2 of season 5's trailer.
Once I am able, I will tear John Jones apart.
You've never even mentioned having a brother.
My brother was a traitor.
It's Alex. She's in trouble.
Why are Alex and Supergirl fighting?
Why are they fighting?
Somebody gets mind controlled. I don't know. They have to fake it. I'm actually more interested in John and his brother on this. Because it really seems to be giving David Harewood a little more to do this season than just, than from last season when he was kind of not there most of the time, it seemed. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, so in this episode, Supergirl and Brainiac thwart an alien attack while William investigates Kara. William being the new UK guy that came over from the British Times or whatever it was.
Was it the British Times? Was it the Daily Mail? Or was it like one of their made up?
Yeah.
Like,
while John Jones and Kelly use Obsidian tech to solve a problem. Kelly being James's sister.
Mm-hmm. Who? I hope that develops a little more too, because it's just like she's like, yeah, I really wanted to help you guys, but it was my second day and I can't jeopardize this job. Okay, that's really nice.
Thank you.
Good that you're doing this.
And looking beyond that, the episode after the second one is titled Blurred Lines, and the description for that one has come out. It says, Kara attempts to mend her relationship with Lena. John Jones takes a deep dive into his memories with Kelly, while Kelly tries to help an old friend, So he takes a deep dive into his memories while Kelly tries to help an old friend. That's the third episode titled Blurred Lines.
Yep. I'm just really clocking time till Crisis.
Well, yeah, Crisis is powering along in the background. They're filming it. As you're saying, maybe that's the problem with some of these things that are going on with these early episodes and the editing of them and the timing, is that they're really focused on Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is the upcoming 5-part crossover that'll take place just around the mid-season point of these shows. And of late, we've seen a number of new photos come up. We posted and spoke about some of them last week with Neil. But this week, we got a new photo with Brandon Routh showing himself as Clark Kent, Editor-in-Chief.
Yeah, it was just like a little... And it's kind of funny because I'm wondering if they're going in the direction that he's not the Kingdom Come Superman, but he's more of just the Earth 2 Superman, and he's just got the Kingdom Come Superman's costume. Or the Earth 2 from the comics, not the Earth 2 from the CW. I had to go through that whole thing with somebody online. Just like, guys, work with me here. Seriously. No, the greatest thing about it is the look on his face. He looks like he is having a ball. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, we saw that in the picks from last week. By the way, I just want to mention, we joked before we left that when we were gone, something big would break. You're all welcome. I just want to... Steve and I are taking full responsibility for all of this. I just want to make that absolutely clear. But the picture of him and Hoagland, there was a Daily Planet thing behind them, which was a subsidiary of something. And now, like, seeing, Clark Kent Editor-in-Chief, I'm just wondering if, like, it's going to be Hoagland just collecting the two Supermen, basically. If he's on the Smallville set and if he's on the Daily Planet set, is that how everything's going to come together? But it was just. I love that Brandon Routh is just. I'm sure he's being told that he can do this. I don't think he's doing it like for like guerrilla marketing. But it's just. Like every time I'm like, oh, can't get better than that. And then today, boom, picture of the Flash with the two Superman.
Yeah, we'll get to that one in a second. With this, I believe that Mark Guggenheim has already said that Brandon Routh's Superman is a continuation of the Superman Returns Superman, so it's
Really?
in continuity, which would mean
Wow.
it's part of the Christopher Reeve Superman line as
Okay.
well, so that this is kind of like a definite conclusion or continuation of that particular continuity.
That's actually cool. It's sad that they can't use the theme, according to Guggenheim, but that makes me feel a little better, because I like the idea that it's not, even though he's got the Kingdom Come outfit, that it's not the Kingdom Come Superman, because there's a lot of emotional baggage with that version of the character. He's the one that gave up. So it seems like with this one, if it's just the continuation, then he's just changed his costume because he's gotten older.
Yeah, it could be where they went with that. And also we saw this photo earlier today of Erica Durance with Elizabeth Bitsy Chulok, so the two Loises coming together from the Crisis crossover. Erica doesn't look like she's aged a day.
No, she...
There's
they
a bit of
both
a
look
filter
amazing.
on that photo, I'm sure. I mean, you can tell.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was just like, yeah, there's a little shine there. But no, I think it's... I'm hoping that it's satisfying, I guess is what I'm saying. What I'm afraid of, and what I'm setting myself up for, is that they're going to do what they did with John Wesley Shipp last season, is that they're going to be like, hey, here he is in the costume for 5 seconds, and then we're going to kill him. I don't think they're going to do that, especially seeing the two Supermen with Flash. It makes me think, since we've only seen the one picture of Welling, that either he turns him down, and then shows up at the end, or there's more to his end of it, and they're just keeping that under wraps, like to keep a few surprises. Like I cannot tell you the day I had at work when the Routh picture hit. Like, my phone blew up. Like, my old manager from another store texted me, going, "Oh my God, this is actually happening." So I think you do that. That gets a lot of people talking, but you keep a couple things in your hip pocket, and that way, when it comes out, it's like a huge reveal. So, showing Routh, that's just getting people excited. Though I will say I got a little misty-eyed when I saw Erica and Tom standing next to the barn. I'm like, wow, this is really happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many things. And then today, as you mentioned, this one of Grant Gustin standing in the middle of the two Supermen, Brandon Routh on the right and Tyler Hoechlin on the left. Grant's a big Superman fan. This would have just been like heaven for him.
Yeah, especially with the story of him gasping audibly when Hoechlin did the shirt rip. I am assuming that Hoechlin is on a ramp. And the dumbest complaint I saw about this picture today was that Brandon Routh wasn't smiling. Are we still on that, guys? Really? And I say guys because it wasn't a single woman that said it. So I feel good in saying that. It's really interesting seeing a traditional Superman costume, even though it's the Kingdom Come S and it's a black belt. It's really interesting seeing a traditional Superman costume in this day and age. Because we have not.
No, and it looks great. It looks fantastic.
It looks amazing. I mean, it's just like they got it just right, and this vindicates me. Because the one thing I said about the Superman Returns costume is that the S was way too small. And somebody at the time, and I think it was one of the behind the scenes, was like, oh, it didn't look right on his chest. And then he's got a similar body type. I mean, he's a little older, and he didn't have, how many months did he train for Superman Returns? So he didn't have that time, but that giant S on his chest looks great. And it just kind of hides the fact that man is 90% torso. So, no, I mean, everything I've seen about this has just made me, there is no stops on the hype train. There really isn't.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I can't wait. It's happening.
And I have to apologize to Venkman, because he did suggest that something major Superman would relate when we were on a break, and I just said it on the show, and I forgot about that. So sorry, Venkman, who's in the chat right now. We're not trying to steal your thunder. I apologize.
Now, if you're wondering when does all this happen, the first part of Crisis will take place on Supergirl on Sunday, December 8th. So exactly 2 months from today.
It's going to be a long wait. It's going to be a really long wait. But I'm glad that they're filming all this now, because that means they're going to have plenty of time for the special effects.
Indeed. Now, before we take a break, you mentioned Tom Welling and Erica Durance coming back as Clark and Lois for the crossover. There's been some questions about whether season 11 of Smallville, the comic book series, which continued on after the TV finale, which was all the adventures of Clark from Smallville as Superman in that comic book, whether or not that'll be included or mentioned in some way of shape or form. Mark Guggenheim, executive producer, said that any of the events from Smallville will not necessarily be directly referenced, but they do consider them to be canon, with one small off-camera repurchase of a certain farm. So obviously the Kent farm has been repurchased. It's back in their lives, and obviously that's where most of Tom and Erica's scenes, probably their only one scene, will be at that farm.
You have to think that season 11, since it was season 11, that it would have taken place like 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then they just bought the farm afterwards. I mean, not
exactly
died, but literally purchased a farm. So I do like that they one, that they referenced it, and two, that they're saying, wow, I never really noticed that Green Lantern looks like Phil Lamar in that one image. I bought the season 11 books as they came out. I never read them. I've been starting to. They're really good. They're really good books.
Yeah, you should check them out if you haven't.
I'm hoping that around the time of this that because it's so much easier to read them digitally than digging them out of the box.
Yeah.
That they go on sale. But no, I was impressed with the art and the writing and how Lex is all set up. It's it felt like the show, just in comic book form.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so that's everything we know about Crisis up until this point. Waiting for it in 2 months' time. We're just we're quite way over the halfway point of the show, so we're going to take a quick break, play some messages, and then we're going to come back and talk about Titans with a new episode, Connor, out today. Back shortly. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer, the voice of Superman in Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Just try one. If you don't like it, it's easy to give up.
Uh-oh, nicotine. I'd better move fast. Up and on.
Superman, is it hard to give up smoking, or is it easy like nicotine says?
You no good windbag, nicotine.
No, Superman. Leave me one. Please, I need one. Yes.
That's how hard it is. That's why I never say yes to a cigarette.
And we're back on WGBS TV Live, where Michael's taking a quick drink, and we're going to start in on... It's a Superman one. It's all good.
Yeah. It's on brand. So
that's it. It's on point. All right. So Titans, the digital streaming series on DC Universe, has a new episode titled Connor, and it's all about Superboy. It picks up off the season 1 finale, where we saw the Superboy clone escaping Cadmus, and in this particular episode, he's now a free agent. He's got Crypto in tow, and he's searching about the truth of his past, which leads him to Lionel Luthor, guest star Peter McNeil, Lex Luthor's father, obviously, and Cadmus geneticist Eve Watson. She informs Connor of his true heritage and sends him on a path of self-discovery, examining his own identity and inherent impulses. In a moment of question, Connor chooses to act heroically and finds himself face-to-face with the Titans. He also, at some point in this episode, meets Martha Kent.
Yeah, and I saw the actress that they have playing Martha Kent. I'm like, are they just trying to just make her younger and younger? Because she did not look like a kindly old woman. She looked like the exact opposite of it.
Sarah Deakins is her name. Sarah Deakins.
I would say that, they got the costume right, but how hard is it to screw up jeans and a t-shirt?
Sure.
In all honesty. I have yet to watch this episode. I'm interested in it. I'm actually more interested in this season of Titans than the last one, because I just to kind of preview it, I watched a few clips, and the scenes between Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson were actually nice. Like,
oh, okay.
They weren't them yelling at each other and punching each other in the face. It was literally him coming to Bruce for advice at one point, and I'm like, okay, this is a turn from the first season. Alrighty. Okay. So
I found a photo of Sarah Deakins, and you're right, she's not exactly an old lady whatsoever. I'm just going to bring it in on the over us right now. So that's
it's like the Spider-Man people and the Superman people are just in this constant battle of trying to make Martha Kent and May Parker hot. It's so weird.
Yeah, and if this is down the track at some point, later on in the series, as far as, of course, Connor has obviously, come along when Superman's been around for a while, then Martha has got to be older than that.
Yeah, I'm assuming they'll probably... It's probably what they did like with Diane Lane, where they just grade her hair up a little bit. Of course, I watched a movie the other day with Diane Lane in it from 1993, and she looked almost like she does today. So that woman either...
What was that? Which movie?
It was called Indian Summer.
Okay.
Interesting film. Has a bunch of people from that, Bill Paxton is in it, and Alan Arkin. It's like one of these adults coming back to their
childhood
summer camp.
Oh, okay.
And having a weekend together. So it's kind of but it's actually a really good movie. I would recommend it.
So while we were on our tour, we had a couple of hours to kill on the coach as we were driving, and of course we were in Tuscany. The tour guide played Under a Tuscan Sun, which stars Diane Lane. Well, she's the main the main character. Good movie if you haven't seen it.
I will keep. I always keep an eye out for Diane Lane movies.
I think the first time I ever saw her was in The Outsiders.
Yes, which was on this weekend.
Great movie, great book.
Yeah, so it's just weird. I'm just like, that's Martha Kent.
Yeah, a lot of actors in that one. A lot of big names that were just young people at the time.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Tom Cruise and Rob Lowe and Ralph Macchio and
Matt Dillon?
Swayze. Matt Dillon.
Oh gosh, what a list of a cast of characters in that one. Anyway, we digress. So moving on, that's Titans. The episode, I believe, is available today digitally on the DC Universe streaming service. So check that out. And speaking of DC Universe, a number of announcements came at New York Comic Con this past weekend. And one of them was this thing called Bizarro TV, which is coming to DC Universe in 2020. It's a new anthology series created in partnership with Blue Ribbon Content, and will feature exclusive mixed media content that will feature characters from the more obscure corners of the DCU, including Space Cabbie, Ambush Bug, Slam Bradley, and the Creeper.
Space Cabbie, that's going to be amazing. I guess his appearance on Justice League Action was enough for them to want to do more of him. Slam Bradley would be interesting. I hope they do it as like a straight up noir private detective type story, like they were doing in the comics. But that's a big deal because that's a Siegel and Schuster character.
Correct. Yeah, Slam Bradley was one of the creations of Siegel and Schuster before they brought Superman to the world. So yeah, interesting that that would take place.
Yeah, I wonder if they're like trying to go for like the American Horror Story type anthology type thing, because that is, with this service they have an opportunity to do things that are different, and doing like scripted shows like Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing and Titans, though it seems like Titans is the only one that's getting a second season, that they have a chance to kind of explore more than the Bat characters. Yeah. I guess is the best way to say it. I mean, they're doing a Harley Quinn cartoon, probably hitting I think around the time that the Birds of Prey movie is coming out. So there's some mixed media synergy going on there. But there's more to the DC universe than just Bat characters, and more than super characters too. I don't say there's more to the DC universe than super characters, because when has Superman been overexposed in the past 2 decades? Yeah. So, but yeah, I think doing things like with the Creeper, who's an interesting character, and you can really play with the media with that because he's a reporter in his secret identity, and then calling it Bizarro TV gives it like the veneer of a Superman connection.
Yeah.
I almost hope that like Bizarro will be like the host,
introducing each new segment.
Well, like the show starts, it's like the old Twilight Zone episodes, and the camera pans over, and there's Bizarro sitting in the corner just talking to the but it's lit on the other end.
That would be funny. People are going, what the hell are they talking about? Yeah, go watch an old Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, it's a great show. It's on Netflix.
I believe it's something like 60 years to the day that it first premiered.
Yeah, they're doing, over here in the States, they're showing 6 episodes in the cinema.
Nice.
As a big presentation. So I have the entire box set, and yet I will just sit there and watch them on New Year's Eve, because Sci-Fi Channel runs a like 2 straight days of Twilight Zone.
I've got like the complete box set of DVDs of that first series. That's some classics in there. But again, we digress. You mentioned scripted shows on DC Universe. They're also now doing a DCU Unscripted. Check out this little trailer that premiered this week.
The thrill of Superman's first fight. The chill of Joker's last laugh. Countless moments that have inspired generations of fans. We want to know how these moments have inspired you. Bring your voice to the DC Universe. Share, captivate, and inspire. Announcing DCU Unscripted. From DC Universe, the ultimate DC membership, comes its first ever fan series pitch project. Develop an original unscripted series. Pitch it to a DC executive and Hollywood professionals. And your show may be launched into the DC Universe. From game shows to gameplay, from hot takes to hot food, from cosplay to collections, and hero appreciation to heroic triumph. This is your chance to explore, to reveal, to entertain in a universe like no other. Now, more than ever, this is your universe. 10 finalists will be transported to Hollywood. 3 finalists will go to pilot. 1 show may become a series. Submit your series ideas at DCUunscripted.com today. Hurry. Submissions end on November 18th. If you ever wanted the chance to pitch your idea, this is your universe.
So there you have it. That's what you need to do. Get involved. There's a competition. DCUnscripted.com is how you enter, for those people asking in the comments. If you've got an idea, you've got a pitch, you send it to them. As I said, so many are going to get chosen, so many are going to be selected, and then one will be the ultimate winner. Yeah, great concept. Interesting. I don't know how that works or who will win, or it just seems like they're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
So, on one hand, this may be like crass producers trying to, like, well, we can't come up with ideas, so let's let somebody give us free ideas, basically, because you're essentially developing a series, but you're not being paid to do so. So there's that. What I'm also kind of afraid of is that some of the weirder stuff or some of the funnier stuff, back years ago when they were when Lionsgate was doing an Ultimate Avengers animated film, they had a contest, and it was submit your voice, film yourself and your voice reading these lines, and you may be one of the people playing a character in the movie. And the first thing I thought of, no, what they're doing is they want the freaks to be freaks, and they'll do it as a special feature on the DVD. And sure enough, on the DVD was a special feature of these people in their rooms, like dressed as Thor with bad wigs, saying dialogue. And I'm just like, do you want us to be your dancing freaks? Okay. I mean, this could be neat. I'm kind of wondering how you develop a show like this. Like, do you pitch the idea and then DC? And here's the other question. This is the important one. Do you have to live in California?
Because I said they'll send you to Hollywood for the, to meet with the final, as finalists or whatever. But what happens if the series gets picked up, and how does it go from there?
Yeah, like, are you supposed to pick up your entire life? Living in California, especially in LA, ain't cheap. I mean, it's not just a thing that you can just pack up your bags and go.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the cynic in me sees this as an opportunity for DC to collect a lot of great ideas, because I'm sure in the fine print it says all submissions will become property of DC Comics. And so even the ones that don't win will be like, oh, here's an idea. Let's tweak this and go with this, and let's tweak this and go with that. And the person who came up with the concept gets no say in the matter whatsoever. And their idea will just get swamped and taken up by DC Comics, who will run with it and make it their own.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting way to get your fans to interact. I will say that. And
it could launch a career. I mean, the winner out of this, could get picked up and could become a comic book writer and could make a career out of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are some major positives towards submitting something like this, especially if you are an ultimate winner. Your name will just be there within the DC Comics, pantheon. But as far as non-winners are concerned, I guess your concept or your great idea, even though it might not win, could end up being something that they run with, but you'll just never get.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and mind the gap in the comments, says sounds like a secret marketing and data survey. I mean, the fact of the matter is that when something is free, you are the product. So at this point, with all of these things, like you said, not only could they take the ideas, but they could collect all the different pitches and show them as like kind of a show in and of itself. But yeah, it's just so.
It's
like,
an interesting idea.
All the stuff that came out of New York this year was just weird. Like all these announcements are just strange.
Well, what about this one about the new timeline that for DC Universe, redefining continuity and coming up with these supposed generations or whatever they called them, with where Wonder Woman was the first superhero because that was generation number 1, and then generation number 2 came about with Superman's emergence. Is this just DC trying to get the dots all in a row, or are the ducks all in a row, or is it some kind of other strange idea?
So let's just put it on the table. Since the New 52, DC has sucked at timelines.
Yes.
they tried, you know, they said there's a 5-year timeline, and then when the fans actually did the math, like I remember right around the time, and speaking of DCU, right at the time of the DCU push in 2015, I remember an article with Jim Lee where he was just like, well, we didn't understand why people were so concerned about that in the first place. It's because you told us there was a 5-year timeline. It's not like this is something that the fans made up and that you incorporated. It's not Rolk from Marvel, but it's just like one of those things where I had so many thoughts on this when I was reading about it. But the first thought is, if you're having Wonder Woman in World War I, are we now going to try to incorporate like the movie universe and the comic universe and have it be things that play off each other? So that's one concern, because that never works. 2, these people have the attention span, to quote Dennis Miller, of a ferret on a double espresso. They get these ideas, and it's just like, okay, so we're going to do Rebirth because we're going to completely redefine the DC universe. Okay, that's kind of played itself out. Sales are down, so we're going to do DCU, so it's going to be all over the place. We're going to have all these weird titles. Well, that failed horribly. So now we're going to go back, and we're going to get the people that we left behind with the New 52. So we're going to do Rebirth, and then 2 years into that, it's just like, yeah, everything's going to be metal, and it's all going to be this dark multiverse. And now it's just like, there's a new timeline, and I don't trust these people. I don't trust, like, there was a creator that I was interacting with on social media that said there's a lot of cool people working on this, and I said, it's not against the people working on it, it's the people at the top that I have the problem with. Because they're the ones that change their mind when sales go bad, and then they want to go back to what made it. Dan DiDio's big hit is still Infinite Crisis. And he always goes back to that well when things go wrong.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I know it's frustrating. Timelines and continuities are the bane of fans' existence, especially when DC keeps mucking around with them and chopping and changing them. So proof's in the pudding, DC. Just great, good stories.
Just like, I think what Rebirth proved is that you can get people excited with solid stories and good creative teams.
Yeah.
I think the only downside to Rebirth is, 1, the whole Superwoman thing on our end for the Superman, and 2 is that the books were twice a month, so there was just they had 4 years of books within 2 years, and that's a lot to throw at a fan base, especially money wise.
Yep.
Because then you're spending $6 a month on one book essentially.
Indeed. All right, well, look, we've come to the end of our hour. It's happened really quickly. We didn't talk about the comic books that are coming out this week. I'll quickly go through them. DC Villains Giant number 1, Event Leviathan number 5, Supergirl number 35, Superman number 16, Wonder Woman Twins number 8, and there's a couple of hardcovers, Crisis on Infinite Earths Companion Volume 3, and Heroes in Crisis, The Price and Other Stories, as well as DC Superhero Girls at Metropolis High. So they're the comic books out this week. So that brings us to the end of tonight's show. Thank you, Michael, for coming back after that break and not being able to do last week. It's great to be able to chat with you again. Really appreciate you co-hosting the show with me tonight.
It was a pleasure as always, Steve.
And thank you to everyone in the YouTube comments there and everyone watching the show live. And a big thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt and Tina Murray. We appreciate your support. And if you want to sponsor the Superman homepage and everything we do at the website, then you can do so at patreon.com/Superman homepage, and you can be a sponsor for as little as $1. The complete 1-hour video of tonight's show will remain available on the website and our YouTube channel. If you missed it or you tuned in late and missed part of our show, you can watch it in full at both those locations. But Michael and I will be back next week on Tuesday, October 15th at 7:30 Pacific Daylight Time for another edition of WGBS TV Live. Look forward to talking with you then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey. Thanks for watching WGBS TV Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.